Hello students, today we will discuss R. Parthsarthi's poem from Homecoming. R. Parthsarthi was amongst the earlier generation of Indian poets writing in English after independence. His most famous work is Rough Passes. It was written in 1977, which is a long poem divided into three parts titled Exile, Trial and Homecoming, each of which is divided into several sections. He dwells on the question of language and identity and the inner conflict that raises from growing up in two cultures. This poem forms section 12 of Homecoming from Rough Passes. Here the poet trains his vision on a teacher critic who, having tried his hand at creative writing, finds himself a failure. He is left honing his skills and his language, commenting on the work of other poets, those who have succeeded where he failed. The person who speaks this poem is vexatious in his attitude towards and angry with the critic, condemning him and his work in no uncertain terms. The privileged position of the poet is undisputed, and the mockery he aims at the critic is annihilating. Criticism and commentary are seen as derivative activities with no real value or worth. Also, the suggestion is made that maybe this was the result of the critic's own mistakes. The choice he made are responsible for this debacle. Yet, one critical question is asked in the poem, which then eases the burden on the critic, or was it simply his God had left him? I see him now sitting at his desk. The door is open, it is evening. On the lawns, the children play. He went for the wrong gods for the start, and marriage made it worse. He hadn't read his Greek poets well. Better to bury a woman than marry her. Now he teaches, reviews verse written by others, is invited to conferences, and attends them. How long it had taken him to learn he had no talent at all, although words come easy. One can be articulate about anything, about nothing, or was it simply his God had left him? The poet strongly condemns the reviewers who can articulate about nothing, but their reviews are full of verbosity. The poem begins abruptly with the description of the evening scene. The poet writes about a critic, the door is open, and the children are playing on the lawns. The critic is sitting at his desk at that time. This fellow worshipped wrong gods from the beginning, and marriage made his position even worse. He had not studied the Greek poets well, whose message was better to bury a woman than marry her. This teacher critic took up a teaching job to support himself and his family. He wrote reviews of the poetry composed by other poets. He is invited to the conferences, and he makes it a point to attend these events and express his opinion about other poets. Although he had no talent and cannot compose a single line of poetry, but these fellows teach, write reviews, and attend conferences. It seems as if he was not inspired by his gods, because whatever he expresses is devoid of any divine inspiration. In the coming paragraph, paddling his bicycle glasses, he asks, "What's it's like to be a poet?" I say to myself, "The son of a bitch." Flattens himself on the flesh of dead poets, lines his pockets with their blood, from his fingertips ooze ink and paper as he squats on the dung heap of old texts and obscure commentaries. His eyes peel off. Where would his eminence be but for the poets who splashed about in the Hellespont or burned in the Java Sea? The poet says that the teacher critic asks, "What's it like to be a poet?" Though he is incapable of writing a single line of poem, but writes reviews of poems written by other poets. Parthsarthi uses a word of abuse, son of a bitch, for him, because he earns a lot of money by criticizing the works of poets of the past. He makes or gains pots of money, especially by cunning or dishonest means, with the blood of dead poets. Whatever he writes is fully dependent on the works of the great poets. Such a teacher critic writes criticism in large measures. His criticism on the secondary kind of material, on literature, and obscure and less known commentaries. He is very observant and ever watchful. Parthsarthi sarcastically calls him his eminence and wonders where he would be without the poets of the classical and modern world. He supported himself by writing criticism on the poetry of classical and modern poets. Parthsarthi condemns the teacher critique in a very cruel manner. In this poem, the poet R. Parthsarthi criticizes or condemns those critics who criticize other poets but they don't write even a single line themselves. Thank you.